Hello and welcome to the Metal Pack Pod, the industry's leading podcast for the global metal packaging industry. The Metal Pack Pod is brought to you by the Metal Packager, the number one digital resource for the global metal packaging market. With over 7,000 monthly users in over 140 countries globally, be sure to check us out on metalpackager.com. I'm your host Alex Fordham, and today we welcome Ben Grant, Managing Director of INX International Company in Europe. We were fortunate to visit INX's headquarters in the UK recently, where we were treated to a site visit and learnt about the company's market-leading innovations in the ink sector. During the conversation, Ben informs us of the key trends in the inks market and what it means to be a part of the company in Europe on its 30th anniversary. Whilst producing this episode, INX UK was recently awarded a silver medal for a sustainability assessment conducted by EcoVadis. Founded in 2007, EcoVadis has become the world's largest and most trusted provider of business sustainability ratings. The medal's recipients are recognised as among the top 25% of suppliers rated by the organisation. Congratulations to Ben and the team. But before we begin the episode, we must give special mention to our sponsors, PPG. We're proud to partner with you and thank you for supporting the Metal Pack Pod during this past year. Their range of innovative and sustainable solutions enables its customers to protect and beautify the world. Now on to today's show. Hi Ben, thanks very much for joining me. Always a pleasure to see you, and thanks very much for inviting me up to Manchester for a site visit, and obviously a much awaited announcement with your 30-year anniversary, and you've got plenty planned. So if we can kick things off and just give us a bit of a brief overview of what you guys have got planned for the next few months to sort of mark the occasion.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, Alex, and appreciate you taking the time to do this. Yeah, so it's 30 years this year, May just gone. We started in, obviously, 1992, 30 years ago. What we planned in for what we wanted to do for the celebrations, there was different ideas floated about. We've got an employee forum, which is kind of like a works council. So we thought, let's do what we're good at and include all the employees in planning what we wanted to do. And because of COVID, it was more problem. We decided to do a family fun day. So we got a lot of bouncy castles in the car park, burger stands, that kind of thing. It just brought everybody together and made it important for everybody to realise that it's not just the people at the top that are making the difference and have brought this company to where it is now. It's everybody that's all the way down to the cleaner that's made the difference. So yeah, it was good.
Excellent stuff. So I mean, if we could just take things back slightly, if obviously 30 years within the business. I mean, you've obviously been in the company a long time. If you can just give perhaps a brief overview of how things have changed during this period. Because certainly we've had, even just in the last couple of years, we've had plenty of sort of black swan events that have caught us by surprise, really. So particularly with your managing director role, you had your first year or so doing all your meetings over Microsoft Teams pretty much, didn't you?
Yeah, that's it. I was just going to say probably the changes in the last 2 years are probably more than the changes in the last 30 years, to be honest with you. So yeah, I started, I've been with the INX for 24 years now, when we were back in Rochdale, so that's the other side of the hill that we see through the window. And that was a small unit, so we were brought over by INX Co. So they had asked INX International, or Acme INX at the time, to develop a European-based site. And you'll know the name Jonathan Ellaby. His good self and his lovely wife came over to help us set up what was Rochdale at the time. 29 tonnes of ink, I think we sold in the first year. To which this year we're just we're selling just short of 5,000 tonnes. So that's the escalation of business over time. I think when I joined, there was 24 employees, and there were 4 based abroad. So we'd had some business with PLM at the time, with a few different implants in place, and the change to not so much with inks as well, but the industry is in general, from all the way from what we do with 2-piece beverage cans through to UV flex, so has escalated and changed so much.
Gary Marsden, INX Europe's 2-piece metal deco technical manager in the UK, has been with the company right from the start, and he was able to share some history from the early years. Here is a small snippet about the early days at the company. How long have you been within the with INX now?
Since the beginning. It was just an empty shell of a unit in Rochdale. So I knew they were setting up. I worked for Coates at the time, which was one of the major players. With my old company, I was looking after the. It was the first implant location in Carlisle, and I was the only person looking after. It was 2 factories on one site. I was looking after both sites, and physically, I couldn't do both sites 24-hour cover, 5 production lines, and it just came to a little bit of a head where I decided to move on, and they replaced me with 3 people. So
you're doing three people's jobs, essentially.
Yeah, they put a manager and 2 people in there. So at that point I decided, right, okay, time for a move. And there was sort of these were just setting up. I came along, had a chat with Jonathan Ellaby and Paul Wegman, looked at what they was doing. It was trying to sort of get into this market. It was American Can was the big player. INX had all the business in the States. They had very little over here, but American Can had a number of factories over here, so they was offering business over here if INX would set up over in Europe. So that was the initial sort of those steps of inks. There was myself and Bob Simcox and Jonathan, and it was just a small group of people. Empty factory. We just got a few of the key inks, Coca-Cola and Fanta, sent over from the States. And we began from that. We had a little 20 kilo mixer, blending spot colours as best we could, and then it just went from there really. So I've seen it grow from zero assets, 0 funds, and we had to stand on our own 2 feet. So we couldn't actually get more machinery until we got the money in. And gradually I've just seen it grow, and more machinery come in, more people come in.
Yeah, you mentioned about the fact that obviously you've seen plenty of changes during the last 30 years.
Yeah. That's the kind of things what I've seen. When I first started, I was an implant in Enzersfeld in Austria, which is now an Ardal location. It was a PLM location when I was there. Gone are the days where, probably some can makers will laugh at the expression, that gone are the days where you can run one design for 3 or 4 days at a time, and that's it. You're lucky if you get 150,000, 200,000 on a design these days. Lots and lots of label changes, and that's where we've had to change our outlook and how we support the business. It's not as easy now to supply bases into a location, and bulk inks. We've got to be resilient to being, and having that ability to be reactive as well to short-term change, to support not just our customers but our customers, the breweries, the fillers, and then the end consumer as well, because obviously their trends in what they like change so often.
Do you see that as a potential change within the industry? I know can makers have been seen as notoriously conservative in their approach, and obviously you've had that conversation probably over the last few years. And is that a shift in dynamic where can makers are a little bit more receptive to change, and then they're passing that on their demands onto you guys?
Yeah, I think they've had to, and I think they've done very well at doing it. Whereas that has been the demand that was being put on them. Is the larger brand owners? They don't want a standard can for years on end. They want to be able to mix it up a bit and stay ahead of the market to interest the consumer. So I think the can makers have done very well to be reactive to that, and obviously that's what I've tried to position INX UK in particular, is to be receptive to that change for reactivity, to give the can makers the ability to be flexible for their customers as well. So.
And also the changes recently, I mean, if you could just perhaps provide an overview of chatting to equipment suppliers. The capacity expansion has been nothing short of staggering really, because of the need to, and we're not just talking equipment suppliers here, and also ink suppliers. I assume that's been the case as well.
It has indeed. Well, that's what we've been working on the last few years, particularly when I've been in the role what I'm doing now. I know that you'd mentioned John Erdlich said that the capacity expansion plans what we had for the USA, but it is for inks globally. We recognise that the two-piece beverage can market has significantly grown in the last 2 years, and will continue to grow as well. And we want to be proactively in place to be able to support that demand. What we've done on an INX Europe basis is we've implemented two-piece ink production in Spain as well. We have plans over the next few years to see what we need to do in the INX UK, but it's always been at least 2 years ahead of the game to ensure that we can react to that growth in demand.
So is that really your role, really, to try and look ahead for market changes, etc.? Is that something that you're mindful of as well at the moment, and something we'll get into shortly with, I know it's not just from a business point of view but a personal point of view, we've had the cost of living crisis globally, really, and we're seeing other pressures on demands, and that's certainly the case in a business setting. So is that something you guys are challenging at the moment and also mindful of with like supply chain issues, etc.?
Yeah, it is absolutely that's the focus that I've brought to the team in INX UK now, is that we need to be more of a proactive company, and obviously anything can happen. The most unpredictable event can happen, but what we need to do is to ensure that we're able to react to that when needed. I think over the years that I've been with the company, we have been a supplier that has been reactive. We've increased market share, we've grown with the customers, but it's always been because they've grown first, we've kind of followed that route. And what I want us to be positioned to is to be able to offer customers that growth that we're already there, and we can support that before they even plan it themselves. So
as we said, we'll get into the challenges a little bit later on, but also like to provide a bit of an overview of your HQ here. If you can just give an overview of your business here, and we did mention about the fact that capacity expansion has been going on in the industry, and we just wanted to see whether you guys have the scope here to cope with demand, or is there any locations nearby if needs be?
Well, what we have at the moment, obviously, like I've mentioned, what we've done is the expansion within our sister company, Secata Spain. What we've done, Hayward at the moment, is about 4,000 square metres. So it is the second biggest two-piece ink manufacturing site in the world after Charlotte in the USA. And we have got ideas for expansion. Currently, we have around 20-25% free capacity. And it always is good to have that free capacity available to be reactive when needed. But we're working on a 2 to 3 year plan, adjusted every year, looking 2 to 3 years in advance.
No, that's fantastic. And I mean, just taking things back slightly as well. I mean, you've been with the company a long time, and it's an exciting time within the industry. It's something I quite like to ask guests, and did ask Jack Knight this as well, and it was in the podcast we had with him recently about it tends to be a little bit more professional in its approach, whereas a few years ago it tended to be a bit of a sort of a camaraderie industry and a very close network of people. It's just interesting to get your take on things about how the industry is involved, and do you prefer things as they are now, or do you sort of hark back to the history and the heritage and the fun aspect of the industry? Not saying that the industry isn't fun now, but it's taken a different dynamic because of the huge growth we've seen recently.
Yeah. I think I would have liked to know what Jack's answer was before I answered, but anyway. I think, honestly, Alex, I've always loved it, and it's always because every day is different. You never know when you go in what you're gonna expect. I think what's shone, particularly definitely in the last 2 years, obviously the can makers, ink makers, inside spray makers, all of us have been weirdly like a bit of a family supporting that industry for many years. And I think what we've seen, particularly in the last 2 years, possibly the last 3 years, is how strong we've worked together to ensure that we do what we need to do to support the industry. And obviously I started with inks when I was 17 years old, so I'm not experienced of outside industries, but I have knowledge from talking to friends and things. I don't know of another industry that could have survived what the can industry has done, as well as it has done, and grown like it has. So.
Obviously, you're in a position of responsibility here. How did you adapt during the COVID years? Because that must have been you got this new role, fantastic, and then you're having to adapt. And I know the show goes on, particularly within this industry, but you're going to have a lot of guys working remotely, service guys who can't get out and about. So how did you deal with things? Was it a case of what do I do now, or was there how quickly were you able to put a plan in place of how the business was going to adapt?
That was something, and it wasn't even like we had a plan. As soon as, should we say, like COVID hit us, or to say as an expression, it wasn't like we had a plan ready. Okay, we need to implement that. We did a lot of talking to our employees work in different countries, so it's not the 190 people that we've got working for INX UK, they're not just based in Haywood. I think 80 plus of those people are working in different locations and implants. So we had to embrace all the laws, all the guidelines, all the things that were changing throughout the different countries. Yeah, we struggled with the supply of support with technical resource, because that's a big part of what we do. So we supply ink, but then we've got guys that go out and train cab makers, support the products, and that from one day to the next stopped. And I think our resilience and the strength that we had as a global team was able to answer that call for we need to continue with the technical support and things. By the way of INX University we've got, which is an online platform for learning. Sarah Jackson, our team, did a great job putting that together. So that is one way. It's where we've adapted. Now, obviously, hopefully that the world's coming off the back end of COVID now is we want to still embrace that INX University because it's worked well, but also we need to try and find the new normal of face-to-face technical support as well.
So has the technical support gone back to how it was pre-COVID? I know obviously with the online learning, etc., but have you kind of adapted so it's almost that dual sort of remote support plus face-to-face support as well?
It hasn't gone back to what it was before, but honestly I don't think it ever will. But it has found a new optimum normal. And we took that opportunity to talk to the cab makers and say, when I was key account manager before this role, I was flying every week 2 different places, which obviously is one extreme to the other. And it was recognising, okay, what's value added for the customer and what's value added for INX. And to some extent what we were doing before or what other suppliers are doing as well, the extent of travel is not so much that value added when you think of how much time you lose going through airports, driving to the airports and things like that. So we recognise what we believe at this time. Obviously we're relatively new out in this new situation, recognising the new value added stage for both us and the customers and implementing that. But like I said, it's not a fixed plan and this is what we're going to do for the next 10 years. We're constantly looking at it on a quarterly basis. The implant managers are here now and that's what they're discussing as one of their agenda items is, okay, is this working for our regions? Are our customers happy? Implants happy? So
experience the iSense family of specialty coatings. PPG iSense Specialty Over Varnishes help beverage brands stand out on the shelf with unique effects. A tactile finish with a dynamic effect you can see and touch. A velvety, deep matte finish. A satiny smooth, medium gloss over varnish. A white base coat that makes colors pop. A bottle can and cup over varnish that enables special shapes. And a luxurious finish that shimmers and shines. Proven performance, possibilities. Learn more at www.packagingcoatings.com/iSense.
And moving forward, what are your main sort of goals within your role here now? Is there a sort of a 5-year, sort of 10-year plan? To just be interested to get your perspective on the success the industry have had, and obviously when John Hurlick's he wrote his report, didn't he, about the capacity expansion that you guys have seen. Is it just a case of keeping the show on the road, keeping that growth going, or is there not an end goal, but is there what's the next target as a business?
I think for the immediate interim, it's going to be stability, because there has been such a rocky road for the not just for INX but for every company in the industry. It's about just letting that road smooth out a little bit. We have got mid-term plans in place for capacity expansion, but it's just about recognising, is that growth what we've seen in the last 2 years? If that is sustainable and that's going to continue, then we need to put actions in place.
What are the potential red flags with obviously trying to keep stability there? I know we mentioned it briefly about supply chain issues, and I'm guessing cost, which you're probably unfortunately having to put onto your customers as well. So it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? And the end consumer obviously is the one that loses out most. But I'm guessing that's what one challenge that you guys have got.
That is one ongoing challenge, and I think rather than trying to should we say, get away from that challenge, or at least try and mitigate that in a way. It's more been adapting to what the new normal is. For example, supply chains have been severely hit over the last couple of years, so we've had to increase stock levels to be able to manage that, to ensure that the customers are getting the volumes that they need.
I mean, we then mentioned about the issues of costs, passing that on to your customers. Is there any other areas where it does threaten short-term stability? Is there?
Yeah, short-term stability definitely. What we have with obviously the inflation, what we're seeing within the UK, the job market is not what it is now. So it's very difficult to find new talent. Like the can industry in general, finding an ink technician, you can't just walk into a job centre and just find anybody that's walking around. It's very rare to find somebody that's already experienced. And then when you don't, then you have to resort to bringing people on board, nurturing them, putting through the training, putting through the schooling, which is what we promote. I did that from when I started. I knew nothing about ink. So that's very, very close to my heart to be able to do that for people. But when you're trying to react to business growth and then you need people in from one day to the next, that's very difficult to try and do that. So
it's difficult, yeah, because you plan for obviously getting apprenticeship schemes, etc. But that's only really going to pay dividends in perhaps 10 years' time.
That's right. Yeah,
so it's the here and now which is particularly challenging. How have you guys adapted there? Is that a case of guys that have got the experience from competitors, or guys that have perhaps got experience of inks within other industries? Is that something that you've tried to utilise?
Yeah, what we have done as well is looked at succession planning within as well. So case in point for me as well is some of the implants are progressing into technical service roles. Some of the technical service guys are progressing into implant manager roles. So there is, because we've got a huge pool of talent from within, it is not, I won't say easy because it's never easy, but it's just a great feeling to be able to nurture that and bring that up to the next level and try and fill in from the bottom upwards again. So. And
that seems a real theme running through the company of pride within the business, and it seems like a lot of members of staff who've got that long service record and have had the experience from an early age, and I think that's probably important as a business, because this is one of the first things I learned in this industry is you can't just come in and start blagging your way through things, because you get found out very easily, because it's such a specialist and unique industry, so you have to learn your trade, so to speak.
Yeah, that's it. And when you're trying to blag your way through it, you generally come across somebody that might know a little bit more than you about it. So I've been there. Yeah.
That's a lesson learned for life. Lesson learned for life in general, I think.
Absolutely. But it's a lot of things, and like you're saying, for the long service, we've got guys that have been. Gillian Finn's been our Middle East commercial manager now. She's been with Inks for 38 years, which is amazing. So I mean, I'm 41, so but it's great. People like Gary Marsden and our technical manager, and some of the production guys have been 25 years plus.
Gillian Finn, Sales Manager for Africa and the Middle East, is also a long server within the company, having been with Inks for 38 years. Here she shares her views on why the company is successful.
I started in Dublin in Ireland, and we started doing all the export business, and then when that part of the company closed down, the customers asked to deal with me, and I moved across then to the UK, so I'm here nearly 18 years, or nearly 19 years with the UK. It's just a wonderful company to work for. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time. I don't know, it's in my bones. I absolutely love it. I love it.
And I think with obviously the can making business and obviously the inks business as well, has had a reputation of being a male dominated business, so being a woman
absolutely.
Might be a little bit different now, but how was that when you first started out?
Well, I started off when I was young and I grew up with the customers, so it's like I've grown up in the business with all the customers. It's not a business that people change. They might move from one location to the other, so it's the same faces over the years and they're still the same people. Some of them are starting to retire now as the years go on, but I've had no issues. I've been treated very well by everybody, by all the customers, especially the part of the world that I look after, the Middle East and North Africa.
Yeah, and I mean, how would you say the business has looked after you over the tenure that you've been here? I mean, what sets Inks apart from perhaps other businesses? Is there any? I mean, you've obviously enjoyed your time here, so it's just been
They
interesting.
They care about the people that work for the company. They absolutely do. Do you know what I mean? They've a vested interest in the people. They look after them. They train them. If you've any issues, they're discussed. Communication is good. As I said, it's a wonderful company to work for. I've been with them for many, many years, and if it wasn't as good as it was, I wouldn't have stayed as long as I have.
And this is a question that I asked Ben earlier. I mean, how do you prefer the industry as it is now, or do you prefer? I mean, I use the phrase that it's perhaps business has become a little bit more professional in its approach, because that's just the way the world has gone. So I just wondered, do you prefer things as they are now, or
I've grown with it. I have grown with it. It's challenging now. The last 2 years have been challenging, definitely, with all from COVID really on, shipping. There's been so many issues, but we've got through it and it's fine. And we work with the customers. I work with my customers. We're like partners. So there's no issues. We overcome things together.
When I first took over from Peter Tresenden, Peter Tresenden was 25 years just as he retired as well, so that's a good innings for a career. When I took over from him, I wanted to be able to recognise that, because there was ideas of things to do at the time, but because of COVID we weren't able to. But the Friday after next is our first 25-year club activity, so the idea is everybody that's been with the company over 25 years, we go out, do something fun, have a meal and things like that, and recognise it's a little thing, but it's a nice little thing that says, you know what, thanks guys, you've done a great job over the years. So.
Yeah, because often in business it's a case of, right, we need to get new talent in, we need to do what we're doing for apprenticeships in, having tie-ups with universities and colleges, etc. And actually sometimes the guys that have a long service record tend to get forgotten about, because they are the comfy pair of slippers, aren't they? They're always there until they're not. And that's something that the industry perhaps needs to be mindful of, is the talent pool of guys, particularly that boomer generation, retiring. And is that something that you're mindful of as well?
Yes, we are. Yeah, we've got some of the, should we say, the long servers are working well together with us. With the succession planning is, I don't really like that expression, because it's kind of like you're getting rid of them, but it's completely the opposite. It's embracing their knowledge and their expertise to be able to support the team and the business, bring new young people through. So
don't call me a skeptic, but sometimes that people, when they have that knowledge, unless they are a certain type of person, they tend to want to keep that knowledge, not want to keep the knowledge for themselves, but unless they're asked, they tend to keep that knowledge. So how are you trying to be mindful of getting that knowledge passed on to the next generation of ink makers?
That's a good question, because there's always, I think, in any company you go into, there's always one or two that like to keep that knowledge from themselves. I think it's a very good point, and it's important to understand that. And what we have done a lot of since I took over is rolled out the concept of management with change. So given the, should we say, the older school people, the understanding of why we're trying to do it, and what we're trying to do is future-proof the business and future-proof careers for other people as well. It's not like we're trying to drag out all the information and kick them down the road. That's and that seems to be working well when they do see the benefits that can bring, that the business is more sustainable. I don't think there's any of them that wouldn't want to retire at 65 years old, look back at when they're 85 and see this company still here doing as well as it's doing now. I think every single one of them want to do that. So
excellent. And just wanted to move conversation on to obviously innovations here. I mean, is there anything that you can share with us about new ink innovations, or any new sort of anything else you bring into the marketplace? I know you mentioned about the INX University. Is there anything else that you can share with us for this podcast?
Well, there's the Colour Perfection and CP800, which we're continually working on. Two ink related innovations that we're working on is the EcoCan ink system, which is being finalised with R&D at the moment. It offers the customers the gold certified cradle to cradle products, so this is materials of concern free. And then another one which we're very close to releasing now is the PTFE free tactile ink system as well, which is based on the back of a Novar. So.
Right, so Ben, when I was doing my research for this podcast, I came across a little quote that you made. I think it was back in 2020, where you, and I quote here, every day our industry changes and successful companies need to adapt at short notice, yet continue to develop their long-term vision. So what do you mean by that quote, and how has that played out in the last couple of years? Because that was obviously pre-pandemic.
I was just going to say the date is quite prominent there, isn't it? Because it's before Brexit and it's before COVID as well. Yeah, so when we're looking at successful companies, for me, they always have the long-term, should we say, more proactive vision of where they want the business to be in 3 to 5 years. What it was important for us to do, which we have been able to implement, more so, like you say, 2020 is quite prominent that it's before COVID and Brexit came along, is to be able to be reactive, but to a point that it's not affecting that long-term vision, and that something can be implemented or changed to be able to support the business moving forward. So in a way, the business still chunks out on the road to the vision, but the team have got the skill set, the expertise and the tools available to be able to battle off anything that tries to get in our way. So.
You mentioned, obviously we've covered COVID at length, but you mentioned another elephant in the room. You wish you hadn't said that now, but obviously the issue of Brexit and how that affected business, and have we come out the other side there as a result? I know you guys are a global company, so that does help leverage some of the trade-offs with the uncertainty over Brexit. But how's that been a case over the last year or so?
Obviously, what happened pre-Brexit was a lot more painful than what happened after it, if I'm honest, particularly for our business. It was more the politicians trying to come up with a plan of what would happen and what we needed to plan for. I think just before Brexit happened, we had about 3 versions of deal, 4 versions of no deal, and we had scenarios in place for each of those plans. Obviously, when it first started, it was a very big strain on import-export, particularly, obviously, a lot of our business is export as well into mainland Europe. But it's probably on the answer to the last question about the industry and how we've changed, now we've remained a successful company, is we were able to react to that need as soon as it came out. This is what the requirement is for a UK company to trade with the EU and outside the EU as well. We were able to adapt to that. Obviously, with INX Europe, the strength of support for them was second to none, and it was needed as well. But we were able to take on board that with entities in different countries and try and ease that.
Another issue that is huge within the industry is the sustainability and targets for net zero, etc. Because one of the benefits of metal packaging is the fact that the material is infinitely recyclable, etc. But that also means that your business also needs to be sustainable as well. Yes, so that's something that sometimes we forget as an industry, that it's not just about the material and the product that we're providing, but you need to sort of put your money where your mouth is when it comes to being an environmentally conscious business. So yes. Is that something that you guys are mindful of?
Yeah, we are on a global level. Sakata have got their release report on their plans to go forward with sustainability. Likewise, INX International Global have on behalf of John and his team, and we're looking very much to embrace that. Obviously, there's some with regards to sustainability, depending on what region in the world you're in, depends on what level of different importance are given to different aspects of sustainability. But we are doing, should we say, a mixture. So we're aligning with the INX International and INX Europe goals, and we're looking at what the UK government and what they're putting down as legislation for net zero, and we're also taking on board what our customers are doing as well, because if we're doing it as an industry, I feel it's important that we align in our goals together as well. So. And
you mentioned earlier about potentially less travel. Is that something you're mindful from a cost savings perspective as well? Is that just inevitable, really, that the travel aspect and the more remote sort of workings and learnings is to try and reach those sustainable goals? Then there has to be a trade-off with some of the not service you can provide, but some of the it's not the case of anymore that people within this industry are just flying across the world just at the drop of a hat for a meeting. That if you're going to be visiting somewhere, it needs to be a purpose and a full diary, and it's not just a case of just going.
Yes.
8-10 hours just for one meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've hit the nail on the head there. It has to be, is the way I put it, it needs to be value added. Gone are the days where you can fly 10 hours for a 2-hour meeting and fly back. Obviously, I know I've come from that service part of the business, being implant tech service and key account manager as well. It is important to have them face-to-face meetings to maintain relationships. But I think the advantage for other companies as well is there's not just inks in this position. Every single can maker, every single supplier to our industry is in the same position. So it's something that we can all work together to find, I hate Boris's expression, but the new normal, so to say. Well,
and then, just to round things off, I mean, I'd like to ask this question about what you guys, obviously you're a very prominent player within the inks market, but if you... from an outsider looking in, what would your USP be? I know I hate the term, but what was your point of difference compared to perhaps other players within the marketplace? Perhaps service and the quality of support you could provide, and also your product essentially.
We kind of have to look at it in two ways really. There's always the pre-COVID way of business used to run, and there's the post-COVID way of how the business run. Pre-COVID, I think service was beyond a doubt. It was one that we were very good at, and we were very proud of what we could offer customers and the industry in general. That is still the case, but obviously what we've just talked about the travel opportunities, we've still been able to embrace and put that support on a more virtual platform, which still gives that support that's needed. Times have changed a little bit though, post-COVID. I believe what makes us stand out from the rest of the suppliers doing what we do is we've been able to embrace that growth, not easily, but it's been within our stride, and we're continuing to support the can industry grow, even though we're having supply chain issues. So.
It's trying to embrace that change, really, isn't it? Not just trying to be resistant against it, because we see businesses all the time that are successful now, but it's not just about the here. It's not just about the here and now.
Yes, yeah.
And just to end, I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time, and you've certainly seen, you've been to many a place, and you've had an experience. Is there any sort of amusing anecdotes or anything that you can get away with for us to end this conversation?
There has been very good occasions. Obviously, I don't do that kind of thing anymore now because I have to be in a professional position. But no, what am I kidding? We're all the same, aren't we? Probably when I first went to Austria, I was naive towards the can industry, how big it was. I was just a 17-year-old that wanted to get out of England really and find a proper job. And it was meeting different people that were installing a new line in Enzersveld at the time. Those guys probably taught me how to drink, I think, really. So, yeah, those were the days.
Serving an apprenticeship, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a proper apprenticeship. That it was working till 6 p.m, then drinking till 2 a.m, and then getting back up at 6 a.m. to start working again. So, yeah. But it was good times. Met a lot of people in a lot of different countries. Like I say, it's weirdly like a massive family. You're never too far away from the next person that's done something similar.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice way to end about how this industry is very much a family orientated business, and it seems here at Inks it's very much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Ben. It's been
thank you.
Much appreciated. We learned certainly a lot about the business, and congratulations for the anniversary year.
Thank you very much.
Hope it all goes well, and all the best for future endeavours.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you.